Hello and welcome back to the Carleton StarCraft 2. This is playoff coverage. My name is Alex Lyon, aka Apathy, and this is Game 3 of Carleton versus Ryerson in the round of 128. Representing Ryerson in the top left of GSL Daybreak, we have LaserJSC. I'm probably just going to call him Laser, and he is the blue Terran. Spawning in the bottom left as the red Zerg player representing Carleton, it is our own iQQPewPew. He is one of, if IP Stylen was not one of the highest players on ladder for our team, then it is iQQ, because the two of them constantly trade off. I believe Stylen was GM a couple seasons ago, and as far as I'm aware, iQQ has never actually been GM, but I don't think he's ever actually been outside of 1 or 2 in Masters League either. So he is an incredibly talented Zerg player and a very formidable foe. So we'll see if he is able to put Carleton back in the lead in this series that has been tied up by a stellar play by another Zerg player, actually Zerg vs Terran, on a similar map, which was dual site, and that was the Ryerson Zerg with Brett versus Stylen. We can see that Laser is going for a barracks opening. This is kind of a different, interesting barracks placement. Probably going to build another building here, I imagine. You do see a lot of Terran go with crazy, not particularly that fast wallers versus Zerg on Daybreak, just because they're so far apart. And you can see, I'll bring the production tab up for you. You can see iQQ is going for that hatch first, which is super standard on 15. So there's no sort of rush coming in. Not walling in isn't really going to hurt Laser that much. It does let this drone get up here, but that drone could probably get in anyway. Though we did see in Stylen's game, he did that sort of half depot and was able to deny all drone scouting, whereas Laser is going for actually just a supply depot wall. So were iQQ decide to do some sort of mainling all in, he would very likely be able to break this wall. That is potentially a risk for Laser, and he did show it to iQQ right off the bat, so it'll be curious to see if iQQ decides to go for that. One Marine on the low ground, and yeah, he has his gas mining, so we'll see if he decides to throw down a factory. He's got 100 gas banked up. This SCV is chilling, and there goes the factory, so nothing too out of the ordinary. iQQ sending his drones to his natural, that's nicely timed out. Spawning pool finishes, probably going to build a queen pretty soon, and grab, well, his gas isn't even done, so he's not going to be grabbing metabolic boost in the immediate future, but probably in the near future, we will see that Zergling speed upgrade on the way. Not a whole lot to talk about again at the start of this game. Looks like we have another reactor Hellion opening as the barracks is making a reactor and the factory is finishing up behind that. Super standard TVZ, so we'll see how iQQ decides to respond to that, if he does the same thing that Regret did and get that Roach or Spine Crawler at the front and the Roach Warren, and there is the Spine Crawler at the front. We'll see if he goes for the Roach Warren. He still hasn't banked enough gas to get the metabolic boost up. I believe Regret grabbed a faster gas, so we might see a different response from iQQ, and you can see that Laser is grabbing a command center in his base. Unlike Stylen threw it down on the low ground and then lost it and had to remake it in his base. Laser playing it safe, building it in his base. You can always morph that to an orbital and just make extra SCVs and drop them extra fuels. So there's metabolic boost coming down for iQQ. Supplies fairly even for this part of the game. I mean, I know iQQ is ahead in the number, but it's pretty standard to see Zerg up ahead at this point. Especially since he went for a fast expand. So you can see the Hellions moving up. They're going to try to roast the Zergling. It's not going to get away. They come back and clean that up. Doesn't want to let that Zergling run in and see that there's no expo down or that there is an expo coming, and he's going to have to run around the long way. Interesting thing about this map is that there are rocks in this middle lane, so any sort of run-bys at the start have to go around one of these two peaks, which add a ton of distance to which add a lot to that initial rush distance, and that is why you see a lot of players go for these greedy builds, like hatch first, make a ton of drones, not get gas. iQQ throwing down an Evo chamber at the front and going up to lair before his Zergling speed is done. So this is a 6-minute lair. That's pretty fast. So we have these four Hellions out, but they're probably not going to be able to break 2 queens and a Spine Crawler, and if they do, they're probably going to be weak enough that they're not going to deal a ton of damage. One of the things I really like by iQQ, throws it initial tumor down at the front, and then he's going to build up here and just connect his creep between bases and probably push it out further. So that's a really nice Daybreak specific build you can do. And there is the Roach Warren going down for him as his second gas finishes, beautifully timed out, actually all of his gas finishing. And he's building a Baneling Nest at the front, so he might be going for some sort of Roachling all in. What does Terran have? Terran has a more two racks and a starport going down, but not a lot of units. So this, depending on what Terran gets out, a Roachling all in could be very good. Nice catch by the Zerglings. That's one Hellion down. Actually, beautiful Hellion micro. He's not going to lose a whole lot. That was nice, turning back into the Lings at the last second. And you can see iQQ on top of his macro defense moved that spine crawler forward so as to deny Hellions more or less access to his main. It's just there to buffer so that the Hellions, they decide to poke up, it's like, hey, you get out, it'll turn and poke him, and that actually deals a ton of damage. So, Spire coming up somewhere for iQQ. Is he hiding it? Oh, no, there it is. Yeah. And he's actually going to send an Overseer in, and he's going to see just everything going on in Regret's base. Tons of barracks going down, and Starport on the way. The Factory is actually just chilling and made a couple SCVs. He's going to lose the Overseer, which is a little unfortunate, but that happens, and it's totally worth that scouting information. You can see the supply tab starting to even up as Terran's production facilities get going. He has the Medivacs out, and he's starting his sort of secondary Eagle Wall around the natural, always a good thing to get. A couple roaches on the way for iQQ. That's a big reveal. You can tell that sort of 10-minute. You know he's on 2 base. He's got Banelings. I doubt he's going Roachling all in as soon as you grab that Spire, so it's actually kind of iQQ kind of teching in every direction off 2 base. Almost Leenock-esque, though I think Leenock tends to skip that Roaches, though we see a big drop coming for Terran. iQQ scouts it. He's going to be all over this. Baneling's morphing in the main. Ling's already there. He's not moving in, though. That's a lot of Marines down for just pure Zerglings to deal with, but these Banelings are almost done, and Regret. Laser's probably just going to want to back out. He's going to be engaging for as long as he can. Nice pull. Nice pickup. These Hellions are a little bit far across this gap to be able to give any sort of support, but that's okay. Fairly, I don't want to say an even trade. iQQ lost a little bit of units. If we take a look at the units lost tab, we see iQQ has lost a lot more units than Terran, but when you go for that faster command, you can afford to lose a little bit. So another drop coming, that's going to get spotted as well. We'll see if iQQ responds to it, though. You can see Hellion versus Zergling. I think we know how the story goes, but no micro on the Hellion, almost loses it. These Marines are getting dropped. Does Regret, of course, Laser see the space? He does see it, so he's going to drop and just kill that off. 3 roaches coming down. It's actually not going to be enough to save the hatch. I think he's going to force a cancel. There it is. So nice drop by Laser, just slowing down that macro of iQQ. Another drop coming out with only 2 Marines, plus this drop. I guess he tried to poke back in. iQQ getting those spines up, but those aren't going to be up in time. These 5 Marines and 2 Medivacs are going to be in. There's 5 Mutas on the way for a finish, actually. If they'd been patrolling in here, they could have picked off these SCVs, but they're not. Actually, that spine crawler's going down, no cancel. I don't know if he canceled the other one. Doesn't have enough Zerglings to actually deal with this, and his Mutas are going to come in, need to pick off that Medivac. They do. These Zerglings and Mutas should be enough to clean up these Marines. He loses 2 of the Mutas, that clump of Marines. That's, I mean, I guess technically iQQ came out ahead because 2 Medivacs is worth the trade for 2 Mutas, but Mutas, you really want to clump up more than Medivacs, and he could have avoided losing them, so that's actually a little bit of a win for Laser, pulling a bit ahead. You can see the supplies are virtually even now, and that's not something you want to see as Zerg. 12 minutes into the game, this is actually 2-base Terran on 2-base Zerg, so that's something that, even though iQQ is playing extremely safe, he's not macroing the way Zerg probably wants to macro, and he may end up getting behind because of that. You can see Terran has already done this command center for his 3rd, morphing into an orbital and starting to build SCVs down here. SCVs, starting to build supply depots down here, and he's going for his big push. That's a lot of Marines. That's a lot of Marines and nothing else. What units does Terran have? Terran has 41 Marines and 4 Medivacs. Zerg is getting Infestors out and Baneling, and that should just roll all over Terran. I don't know what kind of build Laser's going for. But yeah, this is very interesting. Marine only build. I haven't actually seen this before, so it'll be interesting to see how it works. I feel like someone like of iQQ's caliber should be able to just crush it. Nice pick on the medevac. No Marine survived that. There is one Marine, however, down here just scouting, but he's going to die too. And Terran is taking his third before Zerg is taking his third. So that's never something you want to see as Zerg. Usually means you're behind unless you've done some damage, but iQQ kind of went for a build that could have dealt a lot of damage, and he never moved out. So Terran's actually going to be super safe for Muta with all of the Marines and missile turrets. It's going to be the Banelings and Infestors that I don't think Terran is going to be able to deal with. He's mixing a couple Marauders in now, which is, I guess, good. Maybe this is that Marine King style we saw at the last MLG that he crushed DRG in the final with, where he just sort of Banelings into the Marauders and Marines to clean up the Muta. But I feel like the Infestor's Fungal might just negate any sort of Terran micro. We'll see how it goes for him though. And as it looks like iQQ is going to get ready to push out 160 supply. He's actually still droning, building spine crawlers. He's playing super safe and going up to Hive. So iQQ kind of doing everything all at once off 3 base. So he's actually playing an incredibly safe style, getting a lot of units out. And when I say safe, I mean he's safe and then he's getting a lot of units out. Not so safe and then he's actually playing even with the Terran, and you can see Terran almost equal supply. And I mean, I guess that makes sense because Terran is only making Marines, and Marines are pretty powerful, or pretty good at chunking or building up a lot of supply. A couple Thors coming out, and a Ghost Academy going down for Terran is going to be... this is an interesting build by Terran. I mean, Ghost definitely got nerfed, but some nukes could be super useful in this kind of style of Terran. I mean, he's going to be extremely mobile, not quite as mobile as Link Baneling, but very mobile nonetheless, and he's going to be able to counterattack and drop a lot, and that could catch iQQ off guard if he's not ready for it. This medevac actually gets by. What? Okay, there's the fungal growth, and the mutas are going to be able to clean that up. Nice pick by iQQ. A little bit of a waste of a fungal. He probably could have just picked that off with the mutas if you've been paying attention, but that's okay, he got it anyway. These Marines are going to run in, and they're going to see these Zerglings, and the medevac will also probably go down. Not greatest control, well, reasonable. Actually, the medevac doesn't go down, so that's a bit of a loss for iQQ. Probably could have caught that, but this medevac is going to come in and just scout the third, see that it's saturated. Marines running around the top, they're going to be surprised to see no fourth base for them to harass, and that means that Terran is even, but Greater Spire is going up, so iQQ is way ahead in the tech, but we have Vikings on the way, so even though Greater Spire is done and Corruptors are coming out, Terran is going to be ready to deal with it, and he's already got the Mobius reactor going down for his ghosts. So the Greater Spire attack of Broodlords might not actually be as effective as it could be, and finally we see iQQ expanding actually towards his opponent. This is an interesting thing. I've never thought about doing this, but if you go for Broodlord, you actually become this very immobile army, and expanding towards your opponent can actually allow you to secure more bases because you kind of push along this path to go kill them. But I don't know if this works that well on Daybreak, because Daybreak, there's this path that you can just run around, and I feel like maybe this base, even though it's only a half base, may have been worth it for Zerg to take. We actually see Terran landing his orbital, or I guess that's just a command center, but he's landing it before the hatch is up, so Terran is actually macroing off more bases than Zerg right now, and he hits max first. But these are basically two maxed armies coming into the Banelings into the Thors is not the way you want to do this, especially this when you're using the fungals on everything, and iQQ is going to roll through Laser's army. You see the supplies have evened out, but here come Broodlords. I don't know what Laser has. Look at the unit tab. We see there's still 40 Marines somewhere on the map. Oh, here's his army, but all of these Infestors from iQQ should be able to just make Marines next to useless, especially versus Broodlords. It's going to come down to the Vikings, but there's already more Corruptors than Vikings, and you don't need a ton of Broodlords versus Terran like you do versus Protoss. Here comes some medevacs for a drop, but that should get picked off as well. You see iQQ actually unable to get the fungals down, but he does have spine crawlers and Zerglings ready to intercept, so this drop is probably just going to die right away. He is getting the drop down. These Zerglings are not responding, but there they go. And you can can see Regret is just kind of being active up here. I don't know if he killed a drone that was trying to expand up there, but he is being active, and he knows that there's still no 5th base for Zerg. And 4 base Terran versus 4 base Zerg again. Zerg wants to be ahead of base, and he's not, so that puts Terran somewhat ahead economically. And there's 118 Zerglings on the map, so a lot of iQQ supply is in Zerglings. He's only on 65 drones, and that's usually versus Terran. When you go Blue Lord, you want to be able to get a ton of army out to be able to deal with that, and so I feel like 65 might actually be a little bit too few on the drone count to be able to support the push. But here comes the big push. Here's all the infestors. Oh no, the Zerglings getting, or the Marines getting right in, killing so many infestors. Here come the Vikings, and they're actually just doing a huge number on the Broodlords. Here are the infestors. They need to kill off these Vikings, but they're not. And a lot of the Broodlords are going down. The Zerglings have run into the Marines, and they're all dying separate of the Broodlords. None of them, no Fungals went down. The Viking count is dwindling, but the Broodlords are actually left defenseless up here, as are the infestors, and these Marines are going to clean up everything. And this is actually terrible for iQQ. You can see his supply is plummeting, and that was an extremely expensive army that he just actually lost to an inexpensive army. And so this is looking grim for iQQ. We'll see if he's able to come back from this, but he is hurting. There's a drop. That medevac is almost dead, but all of the units get out, and the fungal actually misses the medevac, so they're going to need to bring a queen or some other form of anti-air in to actually clean it up, and it escapes with 8 hit points on the medevac, and well, it can't be that much more on that Marine, but we see that Laser is pushing this bottom base, iQQ scrambling to get his much weaker army of Zergling Infestor into position to deal with it, and there's just so many Marines. You can see that there's, oh my god, there's 96 SCVs. Terran is, oh my goodness, you see, I'll bring the production tabs back up, but 96 SCVs, look at the saturation. He's completely mined out in his main, almost mined out in his natural, and he's just massively oversaturated on both of his bases. That, if those SCVs were Marines, this game would hands down be over right now. But even as that stands, Terran can make so many Marines at once that Zerg is going to have to start killing Terran armies and losing nothing for it, and that is something that Zerg has a very difficult time doing. You can see these infestors shooting infested Terrans out and fungaling down the Vikings to keep that count down, but this could get ugly for iQQ. He's still down 130 supply to 193 for Terran. Terran still has 2 Marines up here, so Laser knows that there's no 4th or 5th base gone down. He knows they're on even bases, and he's more than happy to just stay there, flying a Viking around just to take a look and make sure there's nothing crazy going on for iQQ. Doesn't see anything insane. He's just going to land that and start harassing these drones. 1 kill. We'll see if iQQ deals with this or not. Looks like he's just sending a couple Zerglings back. 5 Ultralisks on the way. I'm sorry I didn't notice that on the production tab because I had the units tab open for these battles, but oh, there's another battle going on. He's burrowing Spine Crawlers, trying to buy time, but he's actually just going to lose them. Nice fungal that's going to hit all of those Marines, but there are medevacs, so it's not actually going to kill any of them. Ultras come down. Terran's going to see the Ultras, and I have a terror, like, I am yet to see a territory Zerg player efficiently use Ultras. You can see they tend to die, and they're expensive. So, actually did a nice job with the Fungals and the Ultras cleaning up the Marine army, but he's lost, what is that, 1, 2, 3 Ultras? I'll bring up the units lost tab. It's actually pretty even. Zerg's lost a little bit more, but that makes sense. He did lose that huge Broodlord Infestor army beforehand. Now he's losing Infestor Ultra army. And this Ultra's actually going to get cleaned up. It's going to die. One of the things you really need is you need to bring Queens with your Ultras so that they can kind of transfuse the Ultralisk. One of the big powers of the Ultra is that it has so much armor. You can see 6 armor on an Ultra, so when Marines shoot it with 8 damage, Marines only deal 2 damage to an Ultralisk when they shoot it, but Marines shoot very fast. Actually, there's a drop in the main, killed the Greater Spire, so we're not going to see any more Broodlord tech. More Marines and tanks pushing in. iQQ is just getting picked apart at this point. Terran is grabbing another base, and these Marines are unanswered, and it's really hard to deal with just these small Marine drops and Ultralisks because they're so beefy. but Marines have such high DPS that they can actually kill down those Ultras, and it's just not cost efficient at all to go Ultra versus that. You can see some drones sneaking in here, but ultimately this Marine Marauder Ball is going to be able to clean that up, and iQQ is sort of running out of options. Mind out in the main, mind out at the natural. He does still have minerals at the third and at his fourth base, and damn, iQQ knows he's pretty far behind. 85 supply to another max Terran army. What is the worker count for Terran? 108 SCVs. So Terran can afford, he still hasn't taken the gas at this base, or at this base, but Terran can just afford to continually make units. Only 51 Marines, which isn't that much, but it's a lot considering more than half of Terran's supply is in SCVs, and he's not sacking any of them either. So, based on the way this, oh, here we go, here's an SCV sack. And this could be used better by Terran, I feel. Actually forces a fungal out of iQQ because he really doesn't want to take any damage on his Ultras, but what that does allow Terran to do is it does allow him to see exactly what's going on, sacking a couple more SCVs. Honestly, Terran can sack a lot more SCVs than this if he wanted to. He's only mining off of 2-on-2, 2.5 bases. Undersaturated on this base. Oh my goodness, it's so many SCVs for 3 mineral patches. This is for Terran's. It's interesting. Terran, I would say, is not macroing as the textbook would say as well as Zerg, but the way the unit compositions are and the way the engagements have gone, Terran has just come out ahead in almost every single one and just been able to control this game with an iron fist. So iQQ really hasn't been able to do a whole lot. Losing that big, expensive Broodlord army up here really put him behind. He needed something to deal with that many Marines, and he just didn't have it. And it really sucks when that happens to you as Zerg because you feel so limited. Oh, nice catch on the medevac here, but it's actually out of the range of the infestors, so he's going to have to fungal it again, and he really can't afford that medevac to get into his main and take all of his infrastructure out, so it's going to take 2 or 3 fungals to kill that off. Not the use of infestor energy that iQQ wants to use right now. You can see that Laser is just building up sort of a death army, and he's going to squeeze, put the squeeze on iQQ, doing these sort of little drops, pulling the Zerglings away, and he's going to start running in here. Nice repositioning of the Spine Crawlers just to deal with the small groups of units that Laser is setting up, but with 3 and a medevac, Marine Marauder, even just a couple of them can really start to clean out spines, no problem. That's so many Ultralisks by iQQ, but this is such a narrow choke. He needs to be so careful in how he engages it. And these rocks are still here. I almost feel like if iQQ... Oh, here he goes. But this is not the way to use Ultras when they all clump up like that. I feel like if iQQ could have knocked the rocks down and come in from 3 angles, he could have done very, very well. Beautiful fungals. Actually, iQQ might just break through here because there's still a ton of supply into SCVs. I'll bring the production tab back up. More Ultras, more Zerglings, but no Infestor energy. And you can just see the Marines, when there's not that many Ultras, they can just pipe them forever. Banelings coming in, but that's not enough stuff to kill with the Banelings. And the crazy thing about this style of Terran is you run in, you crush their army, but they just make a ton more. And there's just not much iQQ can do. Even though he's crushing his victories, he's not going to have enough to break the Planetary Fortress. And here comes another Terran army, but iQQ lost so many Ultras killing the first Terran army that I don't know if he's going to be able to deal with it. You can see these little dropper asses pulling a lot of iQQ's army aside. He's going to lose that last Ultralisk, and now he has almost nothing up here to defend his mounting base. There's the GG from iQQ, and we see Ryerson move ahead 2-1 in the series.